guys, let's get into this ornament. I don't love how the intro looked. It was super fuzzy, so we're just going to jump right into it. This is a longer ornament video anyway, and I'm sure you guys have seen this all over the internet. These are super duper duper popular. Everybody is doing them. I even did like a test run of one when I was doing my Fabric Fairy um, gift. I gave her a holiday ornament. I think that is the coolest thing to give somebody as an ornament right now, especially if you do the box with it the way that I really think it's, I like to gift stuff in a cute and special way, but like a matching ornament in the box, I mean, it just can't get any cuter than that. So if you haven't done so already, check out that video. So I cut a strip looking for about 4.5, 4 inches, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these masks I wanted to highlight. I ended up cutting a couple of these out um, just so that I had options. And so the way that I'm doing this is a 3 inch ruler. So I put the 2.5 inch mark right. Actually, this might be a 2.5 inch ruler. Is it 2.5 or 3 inches? I don't know. But I put the center mark on the mask and then I cut one side and then I cut the other side so that I had a 4 inch square or 4.5 inch square. Again, I'm just trying to figure out which mask. Do not be afraid that all the masks are so close together. The way that you put the fabric, it still highlights the mask in the middle. Don't even worry about if you can see the other masks. They don't draw focus. It still looks like what they call the snow globe ornament. So for this project, you are going to need, the way that I did it, I believe it's 32 of each color, and I'm using 2 by 3 inch rectangles. So get yourself, yeah, I think it was 32 because I think I'm doing 8. Yeah, I'm doing an 8 pointed star. So with the way that we're going to do this, we're going to do 8 2 by 3. They're little. They're not huge strips. They are just little rectangles. I chose these colors because they're in the color story that we're working with this holiday season. We're going to do the blue, we're going to do the red. This fabric came from Joann's and it's embossed, so all that silver stuff that you see is raised. It's got an interesting texture to it, which makes it's not hard to work with, but it wasn't as easy as just using a 100% cotton. But it did give it a little something. It gave it a little shimmer and whatnot, which is fine. But if you have the opportunity to just use straight 100% cotton, that's actually my preference. This felt a little stiff, I'd say, just a touch. So now we've got to cut out these blue strips. And again, we're just doing 2 by 3. And we're going to cut 32 of these also for each side. You do not have to make both sides the same. I did because that's kind of what I was feeling this time around, and I did the last time I made one of these, but you don't have to. You could do something different. You could get creative. It's all up to you. You can switch out the colors. It doesn't have to be all in one color. You can do 4 of one shade and then, 4 of another. Just get creative. Let your mind go free. So I'm using a smooth styrofoam ball. They say that this is 3 inches, but really it's a little less. I took a regular piece of printer paper, I cut it down to the exact size of the diameter of the ball. So this is how I'm going to mark it. Then I took the paper, folded it in half again so that I could get 8 equal sides, just so that I could mark my ball. I have seen people make these ornaments without marking them. Right now I'm just darkening up the line so I can see them. I don't see that great. But I've seen people do this without marking them. I think that you get a better result for me if I actually mark it. And so here I'm just going to put these and hold them in place just for a second. And I'm going to mark every little section. Where they meet is a section. So I'm marking the top and the bottom of the ball, and I'm just using a regular ballpoint pen on this styrofoam. This is smooth styrofoam. You want your pins that you use to tack this down to be able to go through it easily. Now I'm just taking a tape measure and I'm going to line up the center points. Now with this, you can actually see the north and the south pole on the styrofoam ball. They actually have a north and south. You can totally see it. And so I've marked it and I just stuck the pin at the top, and now we're just going to draw a line. This didn't take a long time, but I think it makes for a better ornament at the end. I think the more symmetrical anything is, the better it looks. The more symmetrical your face is, the more pretty you're considered. Blah, blah, blah. You guys get the picture. So I drew all the lines and I just made it so that I could see where the center is by folding this in fours. Knock it out. And I'm just using my fingers to do a little finger press. Now I've got the center area. We're going to stick a pin through, and then we're going to stick that pin through the center, and you can see you just lift the fabric up and see where center is, and bam, now the mask is on center. Now I'm taking these pins and I'm putting them on the north, south, east, and west sides just to mark it, just so that I know where they are. And these are just straight pins. Do not buy them from Joann's or Michael's. They're way too expensive, even with the coupon. I found them at Walmart for like $2, which is insane because I want to say I spent like $7 or $8 for the packs from Joann's, and they're the exact same drits. So now I'm measuring how far out I want to go. I'm looking to see where the other masks fall, and I decided to do 1 and I think 1/8. I did a little bit more than one, maybe, yeah, about 1 and 1/8. It just depends on what you're using. So I've got the top at the center. The top of the tape measure is right dead center, and then I just measure out and I'm marking it with a pin. So the pins that I plan on taking out, I don't push in all the way. I just push them in a little bit. And so I folded the square over just a little bit, no math, I didn't measure, and I put it in where the marker was, and now I'm just folding it down. I fold the left down first, then the right, and it overlaps just a touch. Not enough for it to be, the huge overlap, but just a touch. So we're going to do it again. We're going to take one and we just fold it down about 1/4 inch. Stick this pin in about 1/8 below the fold. Stick it in where the marker was, pull the marker out. Fold down, and pin at the center. And you'll see that your pin should be going down with the center line that you drew. You can't see it clearly here, but I kind of tilt up the ball and look to make sure that everything is aligned. And you keep doing that all around. So you fold it down about 1/4 inch, put the pin in about 1/8, less than 1/8, and stick it where the marker is. And you're only going to do this one for this first layer, because after you get the first layer down, you're cooking with gas. Then you can just keep it moving. This ball is not fast, but it is fun. And I would love to do just a million K facets or Tula pinks. I think they would just look beautiful. So I turned off that light. Actually, I turned on another light so you can kind of see it in color. So now comes the time to get it nice and smooth. In order to get your ornament smooth, you've got to give it a little tug. And at first, mine wasn't smooth, but that's because I wasn't stretching the fabric enough. Once you smooth out the inside fabric, you see I'm smoothing out that black fabric, then you can go on ahead and pin down the corners of your triangle. So give it a pull. Give it a nice little tug. You don't want to distort it. You don't want to pull anything out, but you do want to give it a nice tug. Again, when I first tried this, I couldn't figure out how people were getting it smooth. I wasn't pulling that underlying fabric taut enough. So you see I pull it taut and then I secure it. Do not worry if your fabric is going over that equator line. Not a big deal. You're going to cover it up from the other side and they will meet and it will be fine, because you end up putting a band around the center anyway. So here I'm just tucking and pinning until it looks good and smooth. And now I could remove that center marker. Oh, well, no, I guess I still need it in there so that I can figure out where these other ones go. Again, I've seen people just eyeball it, and that works. It works out just fine. And that way you do not have to be concerned with all this measuring. But I think it's kind of fun. I enjoyed it. And I know that mine was like super duper symmetrical. So That's cool. So again, the ones that we're not going to keep, we going ahead and leave those up. Just stick it in just a touch. Fold it down a quarter of an inch, stick it in, and then find your marker. And I stick the pin in just where the marker is. You can pretty much stick the pins right next to each other and pull it down and fasten it right there. And now you can go on ahead and do your side triangles because everything is already tucked away. And now it's starting to look like something. There we go. I love how this blue color just makes that mask pop. And I like that there's a very strong contrast between that blue and that black. If it was all the same, it really wouldn't look as nice. You really want this to have a high contrast so that it's stunning. You know, you want it to stun everybody. So we're going to go on ahead and put on this last one here. Is that the last one? I think it is. Nothing new. Fold it down, do your sides, pin them in. Oh no, there's one more to go. We can clearly see where it goes to. And again, you can see that the masks around it are still showing, but because it's such a contrast and because you really are making that star point to your focal image, nobody's really looking at the masks that you can kind of see peeking out around and about. You can do this with stuff that you've embroidered. I've seen people use, well, I used an iron and just did some iron on vinyl, and I went ahead and built the star around that, and I loved it. It worked out really, really well. So now for the next layer, it's much easier and much faster. You do the exact same thing. You can eyeball this. You do not in any way, shape, or form have to measure this. It will still come out looking pretty good. And I put this in about an eighth down from the blue. And I'm starting with the ones that I started with initially. So the ones that are underneath. And you go on ahead and fold it the exact same way. But on this layer, you're going to go on ahead and immediately start putting down your triangle sides. I've seen people use this technique with squares. I like the rectangles better. It seems like the rectangles are less bulky. The squares just seem to have a little bit more bulk for whatever reason. So you're going ahead and use about 3 pins for each triangle. You can use more and you can use less. You can make it work. You know, if you have to take one out and use it for 2 sections, well, that's just what it is. Do not be worried. But for this project, you need, like 150 pins at least. So you do need a lot of pins, which is why you want to get the big boxes of pins from Walmart or Joann's. But again, don't get them from Joann's because, I mean, you can get them from Joann's if you want, but make sure you use a coupon. But I've definitely found them cheaper at Walmart. We still love Joann's. We just use them for different things. All right, so there we have it. It's all done on that side. Now for the other side, we're just going to find center, fold that square, and for the same exact way that we did the other side. I'm just checking to see which mask I want to highlight for this one. And it's the exact same, but I know it gets scary because you're like, wait, we've got other pieces of fabric that have gone into my area. Don't worry about that. Don't even think about it. And when you're holding it, it still feels comfortable because everything's been pinned down. So don't be worried about the fact that you have fabric that's overlapping stuff. It's okay. We are going to take care of that. I do suggest you see, though, where the majority of your pins are. Because what we're going for is we're going to be able to hide the mess that's around that equator line. So you really do want to keep it around that area. You don't want to be pinning way down far into the blue of the first section. Just keep it all about right there. That's where you want the pins to be. But still work your ornament the same way that you did before. Just try to keep the actual pins near the equator. So that way, when you trim, and I'm going to show you guys how I trim this up, all the pins are kind of already ready to be hidden. You don't want to be trying to move pins and pull pins up. We don't want to have to do that if we don't have to. So I'm finding center, I have my marking pins, and then we're going to go the exact same way that we did before. Nothing has changed. Now, once you finish doing that, you're going to look to see where the overlap is, and you're going to get rid of it. You want everything to be kind of right in the middle that's ugly. Don't worry, it looks funny right now, but it's starting to take shape. And just trim it, trim it, trim it. And there we have it. The strip that I use to hide it is a 10-inch strip. You might want to do 10 and a half. And I fold it in half. I fold it in half. You'll see. A little bit more than half, I should say. It's kind of half, but really it's a little bit more than half. And then we fold the other one down in the center so that way we don't have any raw edges showing. The area that's overlapped is going to go face down. And we're just going to use some pins to secure it. And you're going to pull it taut. You don't want to see any gaps right here. You want to really give it a, like Spanx. Like you want to keep all the grody stuff in. And when you get back to the top, you can fold that under so that it doesn't have any raw edges. Or you can put them right next to each other and pin them down because you're going to be putting a bow on the top to hide the join there. You could glue this down too. You could get you a hot glue gun and glue it. It's up to you. But I think that an ornament looks really nice when it's symmetrical on both sides. So when you're looking at it from the side, you kind of see that they're not a hot mess. And it just looks better on your tree or whatever you're using these for. So to make the hanger, I'm just doing a loop. And the way I do it is I just go back and forth with the pin, back and forth until I make a cute little, I don't know, I guess you could call it a little bow, a little nest here. And you just have to zhuzh it. You've got to play with it until it looks good to you. These are the only colors that I really had, so this is what I used. And, you know, it's all right, but I would have loved to have had some better ribbon colors. These are just ribbons that I think I got from Michael's or Joann's. And then I just do a nice size loop so that it can hang on the tree. And after that, I just clip the excess. You could tuck that excess in if you wanted to so that it's under too, but that's it. And then I have a beautiful ornament. If you guys made it all the way through this video, bless your hearts. If you haven't done so already, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Okay, bye-bye.